Inside Foos presents FoosTalk Live.
Is the tournament over yet? Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. It did take about 25 hours for me to get back home.
Jim, Tom, I'm actually still here in Kentucky. Just so you know, I'm still reporting. There's nobody there. It's like a weird shining vibe, but it's okay. We'll get through this.
It's FoosTalk Live.
You talking to me?
Compelling and lively banter.
Are you going to talk to us?
Talking foosball.
Foosball was how I measured my value as a man. You took that away.
Players and fans, promoters and pros. Unedited and raw.
Talk.
Living in the moment.
We have a lot of important things to talk about.
All while practicing social distancing.
Cool. We'll talk. No big whoop.
Let's get this thing started. FoosTalk Live. Coming to you live from the studios of Inside Foos, it's the 77th episode of FoosTalk Live, brought to you by InsideFoos.com, offering monthly subscriptions with access to some of the most exciting matches ever recorded, plus live tournaments, pre- and post-show analysis, interviews, and original programming. Sign up now at InsideFoos.com. Also brought to you by ProtectoFlex, the world's premier foosball safety accessory. Go to protecto-flex.com. And brought to you by Rodlock. Practice more, reach less. The best practice tool in foosball. Visit rod-lock.com. Brought to you by 518 Prints, one of the best printers of promotional items and foosball apparel. Visit 518prints.com. Brought to you by Foosballers, the movie. This Joe Hesslinger foosball documentary now available as a worldwide download at foosballersthemovie.com. Also brought to you by the USTSO, helping to usher in a new era of competitive foosball. Become a member at usafoosball.com. And brought to you by Foosball Clubs USA, promoting foosball through school systems all over the United States. Make a donation today at foosballclubsusa.com. Well, hey there, I'm Tom Robinson. Welcome once again. We are live for episode 77 of FoosTalk Live. It's the first weekend of fall 2021. And you know, conversation about foosball is always a whole lot better when you got somebody to share it with, like the world's greatest foosball play-by-play announcer, all the way from Durango, Colorado. Let's welcome Jim Stevens. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Tom. Hi, everybody. 77. Did you say 77
77
episodes? 2/3 of the way to a jackpot. I love that. Yeah, that's remarkable, and it's great every Sunday night. Although we missed last Sunday, of course. So
Yeah, that's okay.
Best up.
Yeah.
But good to be back with you. And Mark Torres is going to be joining us as well tonight. And so kind of getting the band back together a little bit tonight.
Indeed.
As we look at what's going on in foosball here in the last week of September in the year 2021.
You know what, this actually, because it is the first weekend of fall, it kind of marks that moment where we say, well, okay, we've been outside all summer. Let's go back in and talk about foosball. Yeah. And then,
it really does. And when I first started playing, I believe I started playing in fall, as things cooled off there in Los Angeles, if they really ever do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. And summer is coming to an end here, literally just this weekend in Durango. Yesterday it was 80, today it was 68, and we're heading to 63 and 62 later this week as fall settles in and the fall colors start to bloom here in Durango and in the San Juan Mountains where Durango is located. But weather's starting to cool off, but foosball continuing to heat up. We've got 3 big-time state championships coming up: Louisiana State, Michigan State, and then, of course, Colorado State in early November.
Yeah.
Which I know we're going to talk a little bit with our good friend Mike Stahl tonight about the Michigan State event.
Yep, he's going to be with us. He's going to chat about what it's like to get things back together again for Michigan State, because it's been a while. And like so many other states in the union, there's been kind of an ebb and flow when it comes to interest in having a statewide championship. But Michael's doing everything he possibly can, humanly speaking, to get this thing off the ground. And we're looking forward to seeing how this goes. There's been a lot of interest, of course, because everybody wants to get back and play some foosball. So. Looking forward
for sure.
to
Great history in the state of Michigan. And again, like you said, people want to get back out there and play. And Michael, of course, such a great foosball man, a real mover and shaker, a real driver.
Sure.
Really is pushing this event. And I think it's going to be a great one.
Well, he is known as Super Dad in the Windy City. He's also a fasting master. And now he's also known as a former teen idol, at least in the karaoke world.
Did not know that either.
Yeah. That would be Mark Torres. Mark, are you with us?
I need quiet, you guys, okay? Okay. Jim, I could hear you breathing. Jim, I could hear you breathing. Please.
I'm going on mute.
See the stone set in your eyes. See the thorn twist in your side. And I'll wait for you. Sleight of hand and twist of fate. On a bed of nails, she makes me wait. And I wait without you. With or without you. With or without you.
Bono ain't got nothing on you.
No, there he goes. Oh,
oh, that's good.
What?
you know,
with or without you. All right. You know what? I'm starting to cry again. I can't do this.
Wow,
to you guys.
you get emotional.
I just get so emotional.
I'm starting to cry as well, but maybe it's because my ears are.
I set you up for that.
Jumped off my head.
I set you up for that.
You did.
You're welcome. You're flipping welcome.
Here I was into it, man. I was into it. I was just waiting for the guitar.
And who knew? Who knew? I mean, I think the Pope now will be listening to FoosTalk Live because of that. I just,
Joshua Tree, man, 1987.
Yeah,
amazing,
masterpiece.
Right? Great
masterpiece. U2, one of the great bands of all time, no question about it. A band that's been around literally since the late 70s, still intact, still doing it.
Yep.
Hall of Famers. What a great band.
Well, by the way,
fun fact. Quick fun fact. Ashley Lasitra, who's the COO of Inside Foos, used to work in private equity with Goldman Sachs in New York, and Bono, fine. She met Bono, and Bono's like 4'11", by the way, like in heels. He's like the same height as Ashley. Just a heads up, okay? Just so you know, he might be bringing the ring to Mordor. I don't know about that dude. He's like tiny.
That's
all right.
All right, now.
What's next?
Who was taller, Bono or Sonny Bono? That was always the question.
That's a good question.
Or Prince. Those guys could have been like in the Fellowship.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's a very common that you'd be surprised. People like Elvis Costello, Roger Daltrey, not tall people, not tall. That's but fantastic performers. Maybe there's something to this, Mark.
Great.
Is there something to this?
Yeah. I don't know. Man, I'm like 5'8". And I'm amazing. So,
well, like so many of the Hollywood stars. I mean, obviously Tom Cruise. What is he, about 5'5"?
Yeah.
Right. Alan Ladd. Yeah. Back in the day, Alan Ladd, they used to put him up on a box to stand next to his leading lady, who usually was 4 or 5 inches taller than him, and no one ever knew. No one ever knew.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go figure. Well,
anyway,
it's it seems that all this talk about height, I'm feeling a little light, so I've got to have something to drink here. What Jim and I like to do right about this time is to reveal our favorite IPA. And so after now that we've had to say goodbye to the summer of 2021, Jim, what do you want to toast summer to?
Well, I'm going to stick with an IPA. It's a double IPA tonight, but I'm going to stick with it. Oftentimes as you move into the colder weather, maybe you're going to be drinking a stout or a porter, maybe, But I'm sticking with the IPAs. It's a double IPA. It's out of, what is really ground zero of the IPA movement out of San Diego County, California.
Okay.
It's from Thorn Brewery in San Diego. It's called the Opus West Coast Double IPA, 8% by volume. Let me give you a quick description of it as I put my glasses on to read the very small writing on this can. Actually, this is all off the top of my head. I still can't read it. Anyway, I'm going to open it up. It's really good.
So Opus reminds me of maybe a symphony of flavor.
It is a symphony of flavor. Well put, sir. Yes. No, it's delicious. San Diego, you can't go wrong. Any of the San Diego breweries, and there are literally hundreds of them. And the IPA movement really did kind of start in San Diego with Stone Brewing and some of the others down there.
Right.
And kind of then spread from there into the mountains of the West, and then, of course, into the Northeast and beyond. So Opus Brewing Double IPA, it's actually Thorn Brewing Opus Double IPA tonight.
Beautifully spoken. Yes. So tonight's IPA comes directly from Astoria, Queens, New York City. Okay. All right. It's good. Hey. But I love the title. It sounds like something Mark might want to sing. Softly Spoken Magic Spells is the name of this Imperial IPA.
Kidding me?
That's Pink Floyd.
Softly spoken
magic spells.
Ooh, that's Jim singing right there.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Pretty. What?
Thanks, man.
Hair standing up on my back of my legs.
That's how I feel. Oh, God. All right. So before this all falls apart, it's 8.6% alcohol by volume.
Ouch.
98 point IBU. And it's a single cut. Single Cut Brewery, or Single Cut Beer Smiths is where it comes from in Astoria, Queens. So here we go. Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I dug it. Definitely dig it.
8.6.
Yeah.
It's an Imperial or a double IPA?
It's an Imperial. It is an Imperial IPA. Very, very nice.
Very nice.
Sweet.
All
So
right.
Mark,
When was the last time you guys met an IPA you didn't like? Raise your hand. Come on.
Well,
Seriously.
I don't want to name names, but there was one when I was in Kentucky I encountered that I won't.
Actually, there were a couple of them in Kentucky that Tom and I did not necessarily enjoy.
Yeah.
And actually, some of them we gave away, didn't we? And others did enjoy it. So, but I'm enjoying the one tonight. Sounds like Tom is as well, and we're both drinking doubles and Imperials. So this show is going off the rails here in about 45 minutes.
So, Mark, what is it that you're quaffing? Anything good?
Yeah, man. LaCroix. I'm so boring. I should probably try to start drinking IPA. LaCroix. Let's leave it at that. LaCroix. All right. Lime flavored LaCroix.
Okay.
Water, carbonated. Love it. Love it.
Well, it's probably a good thing that somebody's drinking water, because our honor group of the week is Foosball Clubs USA. And of course, they're supporting youth foosball, and those guys in that club, hopefully not promoting IPAs by any means, but nonetheless, they're promoting foosball among school districts all over the states and hopefully all over the world these days. And of course, we're talking to Sandy and Dan Lueras this evening from Denver, Colorado about that. But cheers to Foosball Clubs USA.
Yeah, for sure. What John O'Brien's doing here in this country, and now, of course, as a member of the ITSF executive board and leading up their movement towards youth foosball worldwide, that's really the focus these days, and it needs to be. And we've talked about it extensively on FoosTalk Live for the last 77 shows. But it's important. The kids are important. It's important to get it in the schools, give them opportunities to play sports if they can't play others, and to kind of and begin to develop players, to begin to develop tournament players, but also begin to teach kids how to deal with pressure situations, how to excel, how to understand that things are a process, getting better and better week by week. And of course, Sandy and Daniel, and we're going to talk a little bit about Daniel. I got a couple of bones to pick with Daniel Lueras. Okay. But Sandy, of course, doing such a marvelous job there on the Front Range of Colorado, and also as a member of the board of directors of Foosball Clubs USA as well.
Yeah, fantastic. No, we're looking forward to the conversation. Let's reminisce, shall we? Let's go back in time with great moments in foosball history. This is a FoosTalk Live Flashback.
Taking his time, Gummeson pokes it down the middle and into the goal. It's 4-3. Big, long pull shot right there from the goalie area by Dave Gummeson, and it's world championship point for Dave Gummeson.
Dave's showing his talents from all around the table, and what a break right now,
Dave Gummeson steals the ball. He has a timeout left. He sets it up. Pull shot position. Looking over the defense. Dave Gummeson executes the straight. And the 1995 World Singles Champion is Minneapolis, Minnesota's Dave Gummeson. What a performance. Foosball at its best.
Without a doubt, Jim, he played fast, he played quick, he played consistent, he played tough, he played every way you need to play to win a world title.
Listen in next time for another great moment in foosball history. It's FoosTalk Live. Dave Gummeson, wow, really, that 1995, huh? That was, it's just like
isn't that something?
Wow.
26 years ago. And we've talked about this performance. I know Mark likes to reflect on the fact that a lot of what Dave did to win that title was scoring from goal. He hit the fourth goal there in that final game. Big pull shot, and then stole it and hit a straight to close it out. But Dave was in a zone, wasn't he, Mark? It was an amazing performance.
I was there. Listen, I was there. I was I was already basically I sold my table in 1993. I would show up to every second or third world championship, and I followed David Gummeson around that tournament because it was ridiculous. I don't know what all the things leading up to him shooting this way from his 2-bar, but he shot from his 2-bar was ridiculous. Leading up to that match, I saw him wipe the floor with great masters. I mean, Lewis Cartwright to this day agrees with me. It's the greatest 2-bar performance in open singles, and he crushed Lewis. But he either scored or he flipped your min over with his 2-bar pull shot and scored. And he was scoring at such a high rate and frequency that I actually believed. And I was no child. I was already in college. I thought if he could shoot like that, he'll never ever lose open singles ever again. But that's what kind of anomaly it was. It was such an anomaly that he couldn't even duplicate it ever again. So as these things go sometimes in foosball, where you're so hot, and you could have these flashes where you're hot for a short time. He was hot on his 2-bar for 3 days, and it culminated in that win. He's never shot like that ever again. I don't know if we'll ever see. Maybe it's something akin that you would see Ryan Moore doing. Very like, but in the field at the time in '95, that was like peak foosball for Tornado. Everybody was playing foosball. It was psychotic. The brackets were full. So it was an amazing event, and I have very fond memories of following Dave Gummeson around and watching him destroy people.
It was sort of the peak of that second golden era that we've talked about. And Dave would get it every time on that 2-rod. He would set it up 6-7 inches off the wall, really setting it up pretty much close to where he set it up on his 3-rod. He would sit on it. He would take his time. He'd hit that short, but his long was just so smooth and effective. Just an incredible performance. And we just recently released this past week of the 1995 World Championships on Tornado, and you can head over to InsideFoos.com and watch that. I think we have 12 or 15 videos up there, and not only with Dave Gummeson's incredible performance, but also a back-to-back for the first time ever from Todd Alfredo and Scotty Weidman as well. And that's now available at InsideFoos.com. But a memorable performance. To me, it's one of the great singles performances of all time, and of course, well documented, as Mark suggested. A lot of it was due to that incredibly effective 2-rod, and just such a smart player who was in the zone, I think, as much as anybody we've ever seen that weekend.
And how old would Dave have
By the
been
way,
at the time?
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was wondering how old Dave might have been at the time when he won that.
Dave Gummeson started on the TS Tour, 1979 or so, as a very young man, maybe 15, 16, maybe 19 years old. I'm thinking Dave is probably about 61 now. And started on that pro tour at 18, 19 years old. So Dave was in his early 30s, I think, and had already won a mixed doubles world championship, had never won a doubles championship. He got a few of those later, but it was surprising, in an era of so many great players, maybe 15 or 20 guys on a given weekend could bring home the title. It was a little bit unexpected that he did it, and certainly the way he did it was really unexpected and unpredictable.
Really cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned
I want to add one last thing before we move on.
Yeah.
I want to do a little formal retraction because
what?
I like to listen. I like to antagonize. It's all for fun. It's very self-entertaining, and I enjoy the hell out of it when it's at anyone else's expense but my own. Okay, but let me just say, we got to do this thing on Inside Foos live broadcast about top 10 pull shots, and I very, very deliberately started pushing Dave out of the top 20, and I very deliberately started adding pull shooters that had no business in the top 20. I won't say any names like Billy Pappas, but I had a bunch of pull shots in there that should never be above Dave's. So I actually haven't written it out. Dave probably would be in my top 10. If you look at body of work and international play and inside game, just so you know, Dave Gummeson, you will hear this at some point. You're probably my top 10. I haven't written it out, but there's no way a lot of guys should be in front of you.
Jeez.
Also, Dana Marie,
grown, Mark Torres. You have matured as a person.
No, I retract. I take it back. I take it all back. Dave, you're not in my top 10. Okay.
All right, perfect. Yeah,
man.
Let's get back. Let's go back.
Okay. Well, hey, listen.
Just kidding.
You mentioned the golden age, the second golden age of foosball in the mid-90s. I believe, and this is again, you should be on this one, but I think we're on our way to another golden age in foosball. Reason I say this is because of the resurgence, the pickup, of course, seeing two major tournaments exceed their expectations as far as attendance goes. Texas State's over 440 players, and then of course, Lexington with Tornado Worlds. I mean, what, 500?
Close to 600. Yeah. Nationals as well. And I agree with you, and a lot of that is due to the fact that we are getting so much new blood.
Yes.
And this has also been a theme throughout this year that Mark and Adam and I have talked about, and you too, Tom, during the course of this season, is we are seeing so many good young players. A lot of them, we're starting to see Foosball Clubs USA develop players. Obviously, Sullivan Rue and Tommy Yore, Brandon Munoz, and on the list goes with these good young players that we're seeing. And that's really what you got to have. And we saw that obviously in the first golden era in the 1970s, the late 70s on the tournament soccer tour, and then late 80s into the mid 90s on the tournament soccer, or on the tornado tour as well, where we started to see some new blood come in. And that's really what it takes. That's what we need. And we're starting to see that. I think that's a great point, Tom.
It's exciting. And I think the other thing that's also really cool is now there's this revival of some of the tournaments, the state tournaments that had otherwise disappeared, including Michigan State's, which is coming right up in a month. So, by the way, we have the person who's taking on his own shoulders to make sure this happens and comes off just right. His name is Michael Stahl Jr., I should say. Michael, are you with us?
Wow, what a brilliant segue, Tom.
I try.
He's the one true professional on here. One of the two professionals.
He has to grab me. Michael, he has to grab me before I just like take it and go down some ugly place, and then you're sitting there for 20 minutes. So thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
I should be formal, esteemed gentleman and Mark Torres. Good to be here.
Look out. You, Michael.
What's up, Michael?
Better.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. October 22nd through 24th at it's at the Causeway Bay Hotel in Lansing, Michigan. Of course, I'm a big fan of Lansing, Michigan, home of Mr. Magic Johnson himself.
That's right.
My favorite athlete of all time. And of course, you and I have talked about that. But the $10,000 Michigan State Championships, I know you were scheduled to have it last year. It's nice that you're able to have it this year, and it's great to get the today's players out. But also, you're going to be focusing in on the history of Michigan foosball as well, aren't you?
Yeah, actually, we will be. In fact, we're going to be inducting 5 people into the Michigan Hall of Fame,
Cool.
2 of which very historic. Basically, one person from each era.
Nice.
So we've got, go ahead.
And one of those is, I think, to this day, has gotten the most FoosTalk Live downloads ever. Right? I think one of those guys, his infamous performance and appearance here on FoosTalk Live.
Mr. Tony
of course,
Bacon.
we're talking about the greatest. I think the greatest player. I think we can safely say that the greatest player to ever come out of the state of Michigan, Mr. Tony Bacon himself.
Absolutely 100%. That episode was wild. I think I listened to it twice, and I listened to it the second time with my dad, and we just could not stop laughing. It was awesome.
And your dad isn't your dad also? Michael Stahl Sr., one of the individuals going into the Hall of Fame this year as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got my dad going in there. He's won probably more tournaments in Michigan than anybody.
Wow.
And we actually have a track record to prove that. He's won more DYPs than anybody in Michigan. He's won the Michigan State Championships numerous times as well, which is one of the things that we decided would be a minimum qualification to get in, is to either that or maybe a world title.
That's cool. Great. Very cool. Now, how long has it been since there was an official Michigan State championship?
Yeah, it's been since 2014, so It's been almost a decade since we've actually had a state championships.
No kidding.
It was held in IFB, and I think there was like around 80 to 90 players that showed up. It was kind of a bust for what they planned it out to be, but we're trying to revive it, bring it back, and make it a big tournament someday.
Yeah, no question. Now, the hotel where you're going to be holding this, how many tables can you fit in there?
So yeah, I've got about 4,000 square feet,
Nice.
which is a lot of space for 23 tables. We're gonna have Mary Moore was wonderful enough to rent us some tables and software for that weekend.
Cool.
Thank you, Mary, for that. She's given me a good deal. She's taken care of me, and she's actually been there spending hours on the phone with me to just really get this to where we need it to be successful financially and obviously planning it out too. But yeah, I've actually had a lot of help from a lot of different people.
Very cool. Well, it's the family comes together when times like these, of course. And how many times have you done this kind of event before?
So this is the first time.
Really?
We attempted to do it last year, and we had to cancel due to COVID. It was really sad. But this year we're full steam ahead. The mandates are looking very positive. It doesn't look like they're going to make us wear masks. We've got everything tucked away nice to have a really good state championships. The hotel that it's a nice hotel. It's probably got more rooms than, it's like the second biggest hotel in Lansing.
Cool.
It's a little outdated. but it's a nice hotel to have a foosball tournament at. And we're going to have concessions there. We're going to be selling T-shirts. We're going to do everything we possibly can. We even have Jason Wicks with Bearded Wonder Foosball coming out, and he's going to be streaming the event. We'll have, I think, 2 or 3 tables being live streamed on Twitch and Facebook as well. We'll also have 3 foos gadgets on the pit tables.
Oh, wow.
So tables 1, 2, and 3, we're gonna have smart goals on those tables. So we've essentially teamed up with Foos Gadgets and like 5 other companies, and we've got like a handful of sponsors, a bunch of people really getting involved to try to revive the game in Michigan.
Man, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it totally is, man. It's actually so exhausting, and I can't wait to get there and kind of like a we made it moment. Because yeah, it takes a lot of coordination. I've pretty much organized the entire thing. I've been the main person working on this, and just the little things. I'm just trying to make the little things right. But I'm not going to be, the tournament director there, because I'm there to win too.
That was my next question. Are you going to be playing that weekend?
Absolutely. And that's the thing is that's the trick, man. It's the toughest thing, and I don't think anyone's really done it besides maybe a couple of people who've promoted and played at a high level, let alone the same tournament. And which brings me to my next Hall of Fame inductee, Rolfie Sherwin. He was the TS World Championship promoter for a couple of years there, and he's from Michigan. He's from I think Mount Pleasant, Michigan. He used to run tournaments in Mount Pleasant. He was a huge promoter on TS. He did so much for the game in Michigan and around the world.
Nice. Very cool. Wow. Well, looking forward to that.
Is he going to be your director? Who's managing your tournament, dude?
He actually he passed away a couple years ago.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have I've got some people that are helping me. We're gonna have Jason Wicks and his wife Brittany coming out to help. We've got Aaron Croft. I've got Mary, who's going to be in the background, just kind of helping us a little bit here and there. We got plenty of people that are going to be. We've got lots of volunteers. People are making this cheap on us this first year because it's so vital to be successful financially, which is another burden. It's another really tough thing to manage and to have a positive outcome so that you can do it again. That's probably my biggest thing that I'm most nervous about. But I think we're doing the little things right.
You got our support, man. We want you to have more tournaments, more success. We're excited to support and promote people going to your tournament. And when I say we,
man,
I mean me and everybody else.
Oh yeah,
I'm stoked, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome.
That's these state championships are really the backbone of the sport, right? These are really what support the national and international sport. With in regional events, state championship events around the country, that'll kind of lead on to that national and then international. But it's important, and I know, Michael, how much work these things can be. And I admire your enthusiasm and your positive outlook on the fact that you're going to try to play and run this event. I think you're doing it smartly. If you're not going to be the tournament director, that's probably a good idea, but it's still a heck of a lot of work, not only in preparation, but then setup and everything else. And I'm sure you figured it out. You're an experienced foosball man, but it's not easy to do. And Michael said it. There's a handful of times when someone has run a tournament and played in it and been successful. It's not easy to do. And I'm guessing you have a formula for how you're going to do that. Or at least I hope you do.
Yeah, I actually do. I really do. The biggest thing is it's just time management when you get there, and then having the right people in the right spots, doing the right little things. And that's what really accumulates to a productive weekend. Even if I don't do well, I don't care. I'm not there to ultimately be the best player. I'm there to ultimately run a good tournament, but playing does kind of have to take a back seat a little bit. But I'm a player too. I can't give that up, man. I can't compromise that.
So, Michael,
because that's why I'm there.
Yeah, what's your philosophy on events? Now, is it better to have more events and more opportunities, or is it better to have less events and just higher quality events?
So that is a really, really good question, and it's something that I've thought a lot about. I always think that less events are better. If it was up to me, I would say there would be 3 events. There's more cash payouts in each event. The first event doesn't pay out cash. You'd have your beginner, your I guess rookie, and your pros.
Mm-hmm.
But but I think that there's a real trend right now in the foosball world, and if you want people to show up, you have to do a little bit of what everyone else is doing. So I don't think that I'm that bold to just run a tournament exactly the way I want to, but we're going to try to do our best. We've got, it's pretty much just like any other state championships, except for we've got some specialty events. We're hoping to be much different than anywhere else. We've even got one of the first speedball events, on our Foos Gadget. And I'm thinking we're going to do an open and a close hand class. So it's like $10 for 3 shots. The highest mile per hour wins the money and a trophy. So it's going to be pretty cool. And I think we're going to have people just do as many chances as they want, and then it's 100% payout. So it's pretty cool. And then we're gonna do Great Lakes Super Singles, perfect for social distancing. We've got a huge ballroom. The tables are going to be spread out perfectly. We're going to have a beautiful pit area. The ballroom is just amazing. We're going to have just too much space. It's going to be great. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, it sounds super, buddy. And knowing you as well as I do, and knowing what a great foosball man you are, what a great foosball heart you have, I can only anticipate this is going to be a super event. Your first one ever, but you're an experienced foosball guy, so I'm guessing it's going to have the feel of an event that's been happening for several years. And it's important for all of us around the country to begin to really do what we can to push the sport forward. That's October 22nd through 24th, the Causeway Bay Hotel. Is there an actual bay by the hotel? I'm curious. Yeah, the Causeway Bay Hotel in Lansing, Michigan, beautiful Lansing, Michigan. Those of you in the upper Midwest and those of you nationally who want to make a trip to Michigan in late October, head up there and say hello to our good friend Michael Stahl, who continues to do what he can to push the sport forward. Thank you, Michael, for being with us tonight and for doing what you're doing for foosball, and in particular this $10,000 event, October 22nd through 24th.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the opportunity, man. It's been a wild ride, and we're ready to go.
Yeah.
So if you guys are tentative, if you're on the fence, get off the fence. Let's go to Michigan State. Book your room, $89 a night. Let's party. This is going to be a great event, guys. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. And
awesome.
Yeah, good luck with that. And let's talk after the event and see how things go.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Sounds great, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Super.
Appreciate you, man.
Have a good show, guys. Thank you.
All right, Michael. Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, we have a neat run of state championships coming up. Of course, October 13th through 17th, the $35,000 Louisiana State Championships at the Hilton in New Orleans, and then of course October 22nd through 24th, the $10,000 Michigan State event, and then November 11th through 14th, the $30,000 Colorado State Championships at the DoubleTree, where it's always been held, at least since I think 2014. In Thornton, Colorado. So a nice run of state championship events coming up.
Right. Yeah. Making up for lost time. No doubt about that. So
it would be interesting to look at a correlation between the decrease in the player base and the decrease in local, regional, state $5,000, $10,000 tournaments.
Right.
Because to your point, Jim,
yeah,
a lot of beginners or a lot of non-players walk into a tournament and that they weren't expecting or invited to see one. And that's where they get the bug. That's where they get the foosball addiction. And they're like, I didn't know this was a thing. This is fun. And then all of a sudden you have a budding rookie, and 2 years later, they're on tour doing 1 or 2 or 3 events. So it'd be interesting to see an increase in these tournaments and people driving beginners to hang out and watch the sport grow again. I'm sure it could work that way.
From your mouth to God's ears. There you go. Yeah, let's hope so. Keep our fingers crossed. On that.
A lot of young players, a lot of teenagers, perhaps turning out at these events.
Yeah,
to begin to compete and begin to get a flavor of what the Pro Tour is about before maybe they move on to a national or World Championship type event.
By the way, this kind of reminds me, we're talking about the top 5 this evening. The top 5 teen performances. Are you guys ready for your lists?
I love that.
You ready?
All right. Oh,
are you ready, buddy?
Let's do it.
Ready.
We're ready.
I'm ready.
Mark's ready.
Let's ready. Once again for the FoosTalk Live Top 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here's Jim Stevens and Mark Torres. And this week, the part of Mark Torres is being played by Mark Torres.
What?
Nice.
Best performances by a teenager. This is interesting going, and there aren't a lot of them. Going back and reflecting, obviously there's been a lot of teenage players, of course, but how many teenagers have had a huge impact early on in their careers at major events? And so Mark and I are going to break it down. We've got 5, maybe we got a couple of honorable mentions as well, but this should be fun. Who were the players who made an impact early in life? All right, let's do it.
Let's get it started. FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number.
All right. Let me preface my list by saying I'm going to cheat wildly.
Uh-oh.
What I mean by that is I got 3 guys in my list that just turned 20. And I'm not even sure if that's true. They might have been at the end of 20, but they were 20. Okay, they were 20. They're right. So right after 19 is 20. And if you look at the word 20, the letters in there have the word teen in it. There's a T, 2 E's, and an N, teen. Anyway, that's how I'm doing this. And so I have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 2 people at number 5 because I'm cheating. And what I'm going to do here is one's pretty legit though. So Johnny Horton, when he was 20, he won open singles in 1981. And those 81 was, I know it was kind of like the tail end. We were already on Dynamo, was still a very impressive field. And Johnny was just, we all know what Johnny would become later. And even before then, he had took third. I can't remember. It was open singles, I think 2 years before. He had took third at 17 years old. So here he is, 20 years old. He wins open singles at the Worlds. I got him at my number 5, but he's sharing that because there is a young man who's a hyper talent. If there was money in foosball, he would probably be one of our greatest champions of all time. It's Ronnie Nevoy. And when he was 15 years old, he won the Bay Open in 1979 in Oakland, California, an open doubles TS event in 79 at its peak. 15 years old, Ronnie Nevoy. So he qualifies there, but he also wins in 83. He wins open singles. Ronnie Nevoy, if you haven't seen this guy play, he's one of those guys that are just like how he does everything. His pull shot is wicked. His 2 bar is unbelievable. I seen him score 10 on Lafredo from the 2 bar in goal. And he's just a maestro, super stud. So I got 2 people at number 5, Ronnie Nevoy, Johnny Horton, open singles world championships, 20 years old.
Yeah, Horton was 20 in 1981, and actually it was the very last tournament soccer event held in September of 1981. It's right before TS crashed, and it was Johnny Horton winning at the age of 20. However, Mark, and you can cheat all you want.
Cheating.
Yeah, you're cheating, and that's fine.
Yeah.
My number 5, back in 2017. Obviously we've talked so much about the Roos. We had them on the show a few weeks ago and talked to Terry and Keisha.
Oh yeah.
And Sullivan Rue, 2017 Tornado World Championships. She plays with Delisa Bombach in women's doubles, a tough event, especially at the Tornado Worlds where there's so many good players, so many good teams. And she and Delisa end up winning the doubles championship. And Sully, of course, doing her thing at forward. Even in 2017, when she was, by the way, 14 years old, winning the world championship. And now you look at her, right? Now she's 18. She is, in my opinion, the best lady player in the world, period. And she has come such a long way even since then. But even at 14, in 2017, she wins that championship, does a teenager, right? At 18, winning the world championship in singles and doubles on the Tornado table. So as far as the lady players go, there has never been a better teen lady player than Sullivan Rue, who opened it all up way back in 2017. It's still mind-boggling, right? 14 years old.
Wow.
My number 5, Sullivan Rue.
Also my number 5,
Live,
Sullivan Rue.
Top 5. Number 4. You're too late.
I know. Okay, number 4, another 20-year-old, but he's getting this. He's on my list because of who he competed against in 05 when he won open singles. Billy Pappas, 20 years old, in a field that had a Frederic in his prime, a Tony Spreadman who had just won open singles 2 years earlier, A Ryan Moore who is on the younger side, but still a dangerous threat. Still a bunch of heavy hitters, not quite in their prime, but a much more robust field in open singles than we've had in recent years. So, it was a breakout tournament for Billy Pappas. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, he had doubles events, championships at 19 years old on tour, right? Before that, didn't he? Or what did he win his first one with? I can't remember if he had one with
he did. I believe he did.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to get isn't Billy's birthday in October? If it is, and I believe it is, I believe his birthday is
closer to 21 than 20.
He was actually
So
19.
He was 19 when he went open.
I believe he was 19.
He told me he was
just before he turned
there
20, right? September of 2005. He was born in 85, I believe. So I'm thinking, and I don't have him on my list because I was thinking he was 20 or beyond. But I'm going to give you a benefit of the doubt. And by the way, the word teen does not appear in the word 20. As much as you want to keep saying it, it does not. There's only one E in there, buddy. There's no E before the Y. I'm telling you.
Well, nice 10. Try. If you take 10,
10, fair enough. We're going
10 is a multi. Yes, fine. Billy Pappas, number 4, 19, right. Open singles world champion. Blam.
I'm giving it to you. All right. And I don't have him in there, but I do have in my number 4, I do have Ron Nevoy. And really, in Ron Nevoy's first win, 1979, in open doubles at the Bay Area Open up in Oakland, California. I was there. I was at the event. It was held in this old hotel in downtown Oakland. My friends and I went up from Southern California in a motorhome. About 15 of us in this motorhome. In fact, on the way up there, driving up I-5, we were all sitting in the very back of this motorhome. And in those days, the motorhomes a lot of them extended back behind the rear wheel. And there was like 15 of us playing poker behind that rear wheel, sitting at a table on the way up I-5 heading towards Oakland. And at some point, the driver, and I don't remember who it was, says, "Hey guys, I'm turning the wheel left and right, and we're not going anywhere." Apparently, there were so many of us sitting behind the wheel that the front tires were lifting off the ground on the way up over I-5. But we parked that RV, that motorhome in downtown Oakland, which if you've ever been to downtown Oakland, Mark, I'm guessing you have. We were a little scared for our lives.
Yeah,
but it was a great event. Ronnie Nevoy winning open doubles at the age of 15. In fact, that weekend, who took second in open doubles? Johnny Horton.
Tell me.
Johnny Horton finished second in open doubles that weekend. He was 18. Ronnie Nevoy, I believe, had yet to celebrate his 16th birthday. I believe he was 15 when he won open doubles at that tournament in Oakland. And this was an event that had everybody. Everybody was there. Every great tournament soccer player. They were all traveling in those days, right? And so they all went to Oakland. Of course, they stayed in the hotel, not in a motorhome in downtown Oakland as we did. Listening to gunshots throughout the evening. For me, my number 4, Ronnie Nevoy did go on at the age of 19 a few years later, because I believe, if I remember correctly, his birthday was in December, that he would have been 19 in 1983 on Dynamo when he did win the world championship in open singles. So for me, the number 4 teenage performance goes to Ron Nevoy.
That is an amazing.
FoosTalk Live top 5. Number 3.
Close the loop on Ronnie Nevoy. You're a 15-year-old scrawny kid playing against grown men for what is essentially a salary against some of the greatest players in the world. It's pretty remarkable. So that's what I want to
incredible.
Close the loop on.
Incredible.
Nuts, actually. All right, so ridiculous. We're going to start to get into some usual suspects. In 03, an 18-year-old Tony Spredeman. Was it shocking? He took second the year before to Frederic, I believe. So he took second in 02. Is that right, Jim? And then won in 03?
That is correct. Yep.
Yes. I watched him lose at 17, and and it was just a couple of years before. I think it was 2 years before that he won every event he played in.
1 year.
So he goes to World
1
Championships.
year before that. Yep. 2001.
Yes, it's all right. It's all a blur. In 01, he wins. He has a jacket with like 6 events on it. He won both rookie, amateur, expert, all of the events, like the shootout and the draw. You played, won everything. He played it. It was nuts. Very next year, he's in the finals against Frederic in open singles, and he loses at 17. Comes back the next year at 18, which those are defining moments, right? A lot of these kids, a lot of these great players, they make a run and they don't finish, and then you don't see them for a while. He comes back the very next year. It's almost as though he locked himself in a room, focusing, training, developing with a singular goal, being the world champion. And I'm saying it's almost if, but I can assure you that's what happened. And he comes back and he wins the world championship, 18 years old. It is a very, very rare event for a teenager in foosball to climb the ladder and overcome, and against the greatest player of all time. It's a stunning achievement. It's an easy one. Spreadman in 03 open singles.
Yeah, I've got Tony at number 3 as well. I remember, 1999, 2000, the promoter up in Wisconsin, Bill Maloney, I've told this story before, comes up to me and says, "Hey, Jim, I've got this guy. I've got this kid up in Wisconsin who's playing in my events, and he's going to be one of the greatest players of all time, Jim. I'm telling you, he's going to be just this incredible player." And that's great to hear, Bill. Good. But how are you? How's the family?
Yeah.
And it's like, how many times have I heard this, right? And then 2 years later, 2 years later, 2001, Tony shows up in Dallas and wins. Yeah, junior, amateur, rookie, semi-pro, wins everything, right? As you said, and we all go. And I still said, "Hey, Bill, yeah, it's good. He's a good young player, but it's not open, Bill. It's not the pro events." 1 year later, he's in the final against Fred. And I said, I actually tracked Bill down at that point and said, "All right, Bill. All right, I'm with you, buddy. I believe it. I got it. I watched this kid. He's incredible." A year later in 2003. Now, and again, these are all team performances. 16 years old in 2001, then 17, and then 18 in 2003, when he did eventually break through and win the first of what is now 8 world championships on the tornado table in open singles. And so obviously, Tony, 18 years old, a very mature 18-year-old, who was very experienced at that point, right after his 2 previous years of performance. But absolutely, Tony Spreadman, 2003 in particular, at 18, dominating the field, beating Lewis Cartwright in the final in open singles. And so I also have Tony at number 3.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 2.
I'm going to go with Tommy Atkinson at number 2. And I'm going to go with him at number 2 because he doubled. He won singles and doubles at the World Championships. I was there. I watched it up close. It was amazing. He was unstoppable. He had a chance to triple. And we're still in the early 90s, so we still have plenty of great players from TS and Dynamo playing. And we were starting to rise, and we're not quite yet. We're probably 3 or 4 years out from the peak of the 90s, but people were already making their mark. Terry Moore was already making his mark. Lewis Cartwright was making his mark. Robert Mares was already playing with Tom Spear. We got things happening, and there was a lead up to it because there's all these great. Some of us were amateurs. We're all amateurs or novices together. Between I said already, Robbie and Terry and Lewis and Tommy and Fernando, and we're wondering one of these guys is going to break out. One of these guys is going to come out and do some crazy stuff. Tommy was on that list, and sure enough, it's Tommy. Tommy doubles at the event, almost triples. Remarkable memory. It was the inception of Inside Foos. Plenty of nostalgia attached to it. I got Tommy Atkinson, number 2.
Yeah, I think our final 3 are going to match up pretty well, I think. Number 2, I've got Tommy as well. And you mentioned it. It was our first Inside Foos' first World Championship event. It was so special. I was nervous. I was excited. I was, in there with all these great players and this great history. And then Tommy comes out and does what he did, where he wins singles, he wins doubles. Should have probably won mixed doubles as well. Maybe got a little excited, a little happy about winning the other 2 events before playing that one. Although you got to credit, of course, Steve and Gina Murray, who did beat them in that mixed doubles final. But here's Tommy, 18 years old, coming up. Was a great player at 16. I mean, this is how good he was. He was beating guys at 16 and 17, and then 18. It all came together for him on that weekend in Dallas. And we've talked about it several times. In fact, I think this performance has come up probably in 4 or 5 previous top 5s. But it's one of the most legendary performances in the history of the sport, period, worldwide. And so many factors. Mark mentioned it. It was sort of, we were just hitting our stride in that golden era. So many great players. Things I think would even ramp up even more the next couple of years, as Mark suggested. But in 93, incredible turnout in Dallas, incredible depth of field in all of the open events. But it was Tommy Atkinson who somehow was able to get to the top in singles and doubles with Russ King, and then finishing second in mixed doubles as well. So just like Mark, I've got Tommy Atkinson at the age of 18 in 1993.
FoosTalk Live proudly presents the Top 5. Number 1.
So you can look at some special athletes and look at their defining moments. moments that made them, that could have been make or break moments, and you never really know. And I like to talk about Michael Jordan hitting a game-winning jumper, when he's playing for North Carolina and winning the college championship, and that being kind of a milestone that is. I'm not to say that he wouldn't have been great anyway. Not to say he wouldn't have done all the things he did anyway. But he does that, and then he becomes known throughout his career as a closer, someone who gets it done and execute when he needs to execute. And you could find this example multiple times, but more often than not, when we see a great performance, it's usually a great run that ends. So we've seen this in foosball. We've seen people do exceptionally well and then fall just short. And it's like, oh man, like not unlike Tony taking second in open singles to Frederic the year before he won. How he comes back from that is critical. But it was kind of stunning for everybody who's watching it happen. And you're still thinking you're rooting for him, but you're thinking there's no way he's going to beat Fred. And where I'm going with this is you got a 17-year-old Todd Alfredo and you got Gil Jackson, and they're playing in the biggest event with the biggest crowd, with the most money on the line ever. And these two relatively, basically unknown. If you talk to Kenny Allwell, who he beat in the finals, Kenny Allwell's like, one of the things they had, Kenny likes to think of it as this is what they had going for them. Tom Spear and Todd Alfredo show up to this tournament, and they're like, nobody knows who these guys are. No one knows who they are. And so Kenny Allwell beats, I think Lafredo took second in the draw, or Spear took second in the draw your partner, Lafredo took third, and Kenny won the draw your partner that event. He's like, I'm going to wipe the floor with these guys. So Todd Alfredo comes crawling out of his hotel room late. Like his hair, he looks like he just woke up, which you probably just did, all scruffy. And he's playing pickup games with Kenny. Kenny maybe thinks he's being strategic and tactical. Kenny always like playing pickup games with Todd. He's like, I'm going to wipe the floor with this dude. I'm going to crush this guy. And what is Lafredo? And then Kenny always describes it as the greatest offensive performance he's ever had to personally deal with. Those guys scored every time they got the ball. Every time they got the ball, they're putting it in the goal. Lafredo's doing his thing, and it becomes a hallmark watershed moment, if you want to describe it that way, that it is the catalyst for Todd Lafredo to be the great champion he becomes later, in my opinion. I don't think there's ever been a moment like it in foosball. I got Lafredo and Gil Jackson winning.
I don't know how I top that. That was brilliant, Mark. Thank you. That gives me chills. What you just did there. That was amazing. In 1977, that was kind of the year that I got foosball crazy. I caught the fever. It was my first big major championship in July in Los Angeles. I did not go to that world championship, but I certainly knew people that did. And when they came back, they said, we were all expecting, some of the big boys to have come home with that title. And of course, the TS Tour was loaded with great players out of Minnesota, out of the Pacific Northwest, out of Texas, and now just kind of beginning to come out of the state of Colorado as well. Although, of course, Bowers was already coming from the Centennial State in that 1977 season. But the friends that came back from that event said, these guys from Denver won. These guys named Todd Alfredo and Gil Jackson, and we had never heard of them. And the way they talked about it, they said, oh, it was amazing to watch. It was incredible. We heard that flashback with Dave Gummeson. We talked about how he was in the zone, right? Dave was just so immersed in this event and immersed in his game and doing his thing. There was no fear. There was no doubt. He was just executing. He was just being there. He was in the moment doing his thing. And that is so much, for different reasons. This was really Lafredo and Jackson's first big major championship event. They played in a few other smaller ones. But this was their first world championship where they came out and were just in the zone. They were fearless. They came out and did their thing. Mark described it beautifully based on what we've talked about with our good friend Kenny Allwell, who was right there front and center, right, experiencing this. But it was transcendent. And of course, we still look back on this as maybe the greatest performance in the history of table soccer. That's really what we're talking about here. And to talk about Todd Alfredo at 17, I think Gil might have been a year older at 18, but teenagers coming to St. Louis and winning the biggest prize in the history of the sport with an incredible number of people, an incredible crowd watching this event. And there were no TV cameras. There were no big screens. It was everybody sitting there watching this event. There was a camera. Nobody can find that film, unfortunately. But again, a transcendent performance. And of course, we look back now through the lens of having watched Todd Alfredo for more than 40 years. In fact, now almost 45 years, still performing at the top of his game. When you were talking about it, Mark, and how Michael Jordan hitting that shot sort of led him on to an incredible career. My first thought also was to Jack Nicklaus, right? Jack Nicklaus, who as a 17 or 18-year-old won the U.S. amateur title out of Ohio State, and then went on, of course, and had the greatest career in the history of golf. But and who knows what happens if they don't do that early? Who knows which way their confidence goes, right? But that is what it reminded us of. And now we look back at that. And to me, if we're going to ever have a top 5 greatest performances in the history of table soccer, I have to think that is going to be number 1 as well. So number 1 for me, Todd. And I do want to get in before we finish up here. I do want to also have an honorable mention. 2008 Garlando World Championships. A young guy, I think he was 17 years old, Kevin Hunsdorfer, out of Austria. Winners of the winners bracket final against Frederick Collignon, who in 2007, 2008 was unbeatable. He just didn't lose. And Hunsdorfer beats him 8-7 in the winners bracket final in the 5th game, and then faces him in the final of open doubles as well. Finishes second. But Kevin Hunsdorfer was there with his mom. His mom brought him to the tournament, right? At 17. And then he plays this incredible match, beats Fred. Nobody beat Fred back then on those tables. On European tables, nobody touched Fred. So I wanted to get that one in as well. An honorable mention for Kevin Hunsdorfer, the great Austrian player. But, reflecting back again on the Fredo in 77, there's never been anything like it. I'm not sure there ever will. Perfect storm. Everything kind of came together. And it is truly as legendary a performance as the sport has ever seen.
Now, forgive me, guys. I have a question, because listening to what you just said about these top teen performances, how does a teenager step up to a table with a seasoned pro, someone who's got a pedigree, who's got all the tricks, all the tools in the tool bag, if you will, standing toe to toe with that person and having the maturity to win in an open session? How does that happen?
It rarely happens, man. It rarely happens. And I think there's a level of talent, or that quirk is like someone like Tony will tell you how little talent he has. So let's talk about hard work and commitment to the moment. And then I think there's a lot of little things that happen. There's these tiny moments in a big match that are so defining of who's going to win or lose. And just, I think, being able to stay in the moment, which Lafredo describes that event as though he went blank. If you remember old school, where Will Ferrell is there at the debate, and Will Ferrell loses his sense of reality, and he's debating like a maestro, and then he comes back. Lafredo says he just shook like a leaf and tried his best to execute what was on the table, and then he woke up from a dream and he was the world champion.
Wow.
And I think there was something to that. I think there's something to not losing yourself in the moment, not letting the old saying, when you get to a moment, you let the moment define you, or you define the moment. These guys are defining the moment, and everything's coming together, and they're pulling it through. And it is an amazing thing to see when that happens. So the answer to the question is, I don't know. I've never done that. I never will.
It's irrational. It really is irrational. And you look at other sports, you look at Ronald Acuna Jr., or you look at Juan Soto in baseball, guys who came up and just immediately were good. Look at obviously Tiger Woods, and what he did when he first came up, and it's talent. It's being able to express that talent without fear and without doubt. And it's just sheer innate greatness. There is no rational explanation for it. There really isn't. You can't quantify it. You really can't. It's almost magic when this happens at that age. And we've seen it almost in every sport that allows it. We've seen it in tennis with teenagers winning. We've seen it in golf.
The young lady, Raducanu, she's a qualifier who just won the U.S. Open.
How does that happen?
17.
No. Right. Yeah. Magic Johnson, when he comes to the Lakers at 19 and leads them to a championship. How do these things happen? It's just innate, but it's also part of what makes sports great.
Yes, absolutely. No doubt about it. And of course, this idea of younger players is really where we're at this evening, because of course, we've got some of the folks out there that are really working hard to make sure that the youth of this country and other places on the planet get the word about foosball. It's of course we all know about Foosball Clubs USA with John O'Brien, the work he's been doing. And he's brought on some great folks. He's recruited individuals out there all over the country who are really working hard to bring kids at an earlier age into this sport. And I think about what it would have been like if we'd had foosball on our table, on our schools back in the day, how that might have changed things. At any rate, all the way from Denver, Colorado, it's my pleasure to welcome Sandy and Daniel Lueras. Guys, are you with us?
Yes, we are.
How are you?
We're right here.
Excellent.
Hey, guys.
So thank you for your patience tonight. Thanks for hanging in there with us, and thanks for joining us on FoosTalk Live.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. We're proud to be on here. Yes. It's an honor to be on your show tonight.
So I got to ask you, first of all, Sandy and Daniel, did Jim and Mark even come close when it comes to the top team performances?
Well, Daniel actually guessed number one before, really? While you guys were still talking. He knew who that was going to be. But yeah, I mean, I don't know much about it. Really, Daniel's been in this his whole life. What do you think, honey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know much about, 70s foosball or 80s foosball or all these guys. I met Tom Spear, 15 years ago and knew him as Tom Spear, right? I didn't know him as a champion. I didn't even know he was a champion until I came back to playing foosball, later on in life. Like I didn't, he was just some dude that came over and like hung out and slept under my foosball table and like showed me some really cool like things on the table. And that was about my knowledge. So yeah, it turns out he was amazing. And so, yeah, so
the foosball community knows of you because of the fact that you've been working so hard with Foosball Clubs USA, Sandy. And of course, Daniel, I mean, you're both high-ranked players. I hear tell, there's a rumor going around that Daniel, whenever you appeared in Durango, Colorado, Jim Stevens would hide.
Don't get me started. But first of all, with Daniel, and hey, Daniel, good to hear your voice. Good to, Daniel was a great team player. Of course, Daniel's father, Eddie, a 5-time World Goalie Award champion, outstanding player, and Daniel's brother, Eddie Jr. as well. Two very good team players. And I know you, Daniel, and your dad won, I think, a 3,500 limited event at the World Championships. How old were you when you and your dad won that event?
I was actually 17.
There you go.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. No, the Lueras family, legendary in foosball in West Texas and New Mexico, and now, of course, Daniel living on the Front Range of Colorado. But no, Daniel, living in Albuquerque at the time, would come up, or Albuquerque area, I guess. I think you were a little south of there, but coming up to Durango, which is about a 4-hour drive up here, and would play at our events, some of the bigger events we had up here, the Snowdown event that we have every year, or we had a couple of championship events here that he would come up to. And not only would he beat us and beat us with great talent, but as all those Albuquerque and all those New Mexico players would do, he would make sure he recoiled on every shot, which I actually grew to love that. I actually really grew to appreciate that. And I really got to be great friends with all of you guys. I never took it personally. I really enjoyed it's like the bat flip, right? It's like when a guy hits a home run and flips the bat. That's kind of what that was. But Daniel's such a talented player, and Daniel, we always had such a good time with you coming up here to Durango.
Yeah, I love being there. That was like the best tournaments ever to be up there at the Snowdowns. Like you said, we brought. I came with the New Mexico players. It was fun. There was a lot of people. We got to meet a lot of different people in there, yeah, it was fun playing all those Durango Snowdown tournaments.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah.
No, it was great. It was great competition. We had some great matches, and I kind of miss those days, man. I miss those days.
The environment in there was in that bar. It was just awesome in there. Everybody was just amazing in there, and it was just us all having fun with each other. I mean, we were just playing hard, good, and awesome foosball. You know what I mean? It always came down to the wire on any one of those matches, whatever it did. It was a battle. It was always a battle there.
Yeah, it was. And there was sort of a rivalry, Durango versus Albuquerque. Albuquerque got the best of us most of the time, but we did put up a fight. And Sandy, of course, big part of Foosball Clubs USA. And Sandy, well, a few years back, you decided you really wanted to focus in on youth foosball. What kind of sparked you in that direction? What kind of made you? I know you have kids who are players, but what really created an environment that allowed you to begin to focus on being a part of creating new players through school systems and through Foosball Clubs USA?
Well, it all just kind of fell into place. Daniel and I had bought a new table, and we had an old one to get rid of. And it just happens that we live right next to the middle school and high school that Haley was starting in the middle school that year. And so we just said, well, where are we going to put the table? We don't want to pay for storage. We don't want to lug it somewhere else. Like, we're just going to put it at the school and see what happens. And from day one, we went in, asked to put it in the commons, and the kids were all over that table. And so ever since then, we created, the club kids still come over and knock on our door to come and play on our table at our house. Even like during COVID, they were coming by here like, hey, we want to play. But it all just fell into place where we could see how excited they were about it, and like all of the great things that it brought for those kids, because they were kids that, they weren't good at other sports, or they were, the quiet kid in the class that didn't really have many friends. And it turned out by the end of the year, it was almost magical to watch them, because they would all hang out together, and like, because we can see them right next to the house, and they all became friends, and they're all still friends. And, just seeing that connection really drove us to kind of start, wow, this is a really good idea. And then John heard about us, and so he contacted Daniel and I. And then, one thing led to another, everything just fit into place. And now here we are. It's so exciting to see the reactions of people once they touch that table. I don't know. Unless you're a player, you can't really understand the magic of foosball, and how this sport really does bring people together and teach those lessons of patience, and just those things that good people have. It's amazing to see, and that kind of drove us. And plus the fact that all of our family plays. Daniel being a legacy, that helped too, because Eddie would come by occasionally, and we'd all be playing foosball together. And the fact that the kids can enjoy that with their friends now is really good. And then John coming into it said, hey, you know what? I have an organization. This is my vision. This is my goal. And just during COVID, like, we had to take the tables out of our school. And so it was like, what else are we going to do with our spare time? Well, I think we're just going to put our brains together and think about what we're going to do. So, that started off with goals, and now those goals are becoming reality as we're starting to get more people involved, people all around the country wanting to start, coaching teams and going into schools. And it's become something that you can't really walk away from. You can only grow with it and just get excited about it.
So clearly you have an enthusiasm for this sport. Sandy, what was the first time you saw a foosball table? Where did it come for you?
Well, I was actually, what was I doing? Underage drinking at the break room, I think, when I was like 19.
Nice.
And I ended up meeting who is now my girl's biological father, and he introduced me to the foosball table. And when I started to play, it just, I caught that fever.
Mm-hmm.
And I just played locals for a while, and then I quit playing for a while. And then the day that I came back playing, I met Daniel. I had stopped playing for about 6 or 7 years. And the day I came back, I met Daniel, and then now he introduced me to tournament foosball, and that fever just stuck with me through all those years.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you're spreading the disease, so to speak.
Yeah.
You're a carrier.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because you guys mentioned that recoil, because I always tease Daniel and tell him the only reason why I married him was for that recoil.
Yeah, I'd probably marry him for that recoil as well. No, I loved it. And it was an Albuquerque thing. And at first, a lot of our guys were like, "Hey, man, that's not cool." But I said, it's kind of like art. It's like, it's actually, I really grew to embrace it, whether it was you or Mike Prieto or whoever doing it. I loved it, Daniel. So don't stop.
Oh, please don't stop doing that, Daniel.
We gotta bring back the recoil. I just posted a video of Trevor Park recoiling on Steve Murray like 400 times. We gotta bring that.
I saw that.
I'm very fond of that move.
That's
We
great.
used to do that. You know what you bring back too is pointing. You score a point and you point in your opponent's goal. That's the other message of love and compassion for your opponent. Recoil and pointing. So,
Yeah.
what I love about what you guys are doing, and having spoken to John O'Brien, and I believe this is really true. What John O'Brien says is that there's a demographic of kids, and don't get me wrong, there's crossover, but there's a demographic of kids who are not interested in football or baseball or basketball, but love foosball. They're drawn to foosball. And what foosball does is give another outlet, a diversified outlet of sporting, competitive, social networking growth that other kids who don't want to play football or basketball or baseball will be excited. And that was me. I wrestled in high school, but I love foosball more than I ever loved wrestling. And my friend Fernando, 16 years old, he didn't play any sports, but he played foosball. Sergi Aragonis, we loved foosball, and any of these guys could have been in track or anything. Do you find that? Have you spent enough time with these kids to see that there's these kids gravitating toward foosball that may not have another place in competitive athletics at school?
Oh yeah, all the kids that are into it are that way. Pretty much, like I'd mentioned before, pretty much the kids that gravitate to that table. We have to just go in there and play maybe like one game or one match, and it draws attention. And the kids that think it's so amazing are those kids. And other than coming over to the foosball table, they never would have met those other kids or talked to those other kids if it wasn't for the table to bring them together to play the game together.
Love that. It's
so,
and it doesn't matter your size, your shape, or what your athletic prowess might be. You can be a foosball player.
Yeah. It's a lot of people don't understand that about foosball, and a lot of people see foosball as like that bar sport. Well, let's go, drink at the bar and spin the rods and do all these things. But I think like, how you guys are over here talking about the 70s and all these great things that are happening. Well, hopefully what we're doing right now is going to affect the players that are teenagers now that will go on to talk about, us in that way, or talk about the 2000s players in that way. And I think that if we don't start doing something right now in order to introduce the world to foosball as not a bar sport, as a real sport, as a magical connection that we all have together to compete against each other and respect each other and learn from each other. I think this is the time now to do it, because if we don't do that, it's going to die. I mean, world championships have 6 or 7 junior teams. Those world championships should have 300 teams at this point.
Sure.
With I know that that Worlds this year had 186 players or something in rookie singles.
Yeah.
100, and those are the adults, right? So imagine if we were at each state, let's say every foosball player that was there at Worlds goes home and says, "Oh, I have a high school in my town. I'm going to go ahead and just drop off this card." And I'm going to say, well, maybe they're interested. Imagine if we could get each of those players and the school in their neighborhood to contact us. We can hook them up to do their own club. And by the way, anything that we get donations All of our donations go to funding for those tables at the schools. So if the school can't afford it, we can go ahead and give them those tables. But imagine if we do that all around the country and things start spider webbing, and these kids that touch the table that aren't good at anything else, which we know there's a lot of them in every school, and they start blossoming out into the game. And then, we're starting to have state juniors, and then regional juniors, and then world juniors. I mean, these are the things that the other sports have going on that our sport does not. And that's because of that, the fact that people don't take it seriously. But if we can prove, go into these schools and say, hey, look, these schools are doing this. Look at these kids improving from, their freshman year of them getting D's and F's to their senior year of them getting into college because they donated their time. Instead of smoking marijuana in the back or going and making trouble, they donated their time to playing foosball and learning how to play foosball with us because they loved it and they felt like they belonged.
Yeah.
That is just something, that opportunity for us to do this is too important to not do it.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
those
so,
are great points. Yeah, no doubt about it. And keeping the grades up is important. If you're going to be a part of that after school program, you've got to keep the grades up, and kids will. A few things occur to me as you were talking. Earlier we talked with Michael Stahl, who is running the Michigan State Championships, and we talked about the importance of having these state championship events. You talked about how there were only a few teams at the Worlds, the Tornado Worlds, and which is understandable, right? Not every player, a young player who's playing for a year or two, is going to be able to convince their parents to travel across the country to attend a world championship event. But if there are state championships that host junior events, that's more realistic. And then I think we can begin to get these young players at these state championship events, and then eventually, whether they qualify or whatever, get them to that world championship. The other thing that your speech there kind of triggered with me, if foosball. I'm a big baseball fan, right? Baseball is one of the most complex, interesting games ever. Now, not everybody sees it that way. Some people think, oh, it's dull and it's boring. It really isn't once you get into it and you understand it and how complex it is and how many levels there are to it. And foosball is that way as well. Foosball is a very complex game. It played at the level that we all play it at or cover it. And that's what is so intriguing. There's no end to it. You constantly are learning. Even Ryan Moore and Tony Spraderman are still learning the game, right? Daniel Lueras still learning the game as we move forward. And that sort of environment just creates this interest in this dynamic that is going to continue to draw people forward. And so I think we're in a good position. You mentioned it, Sandy, that we need to get the juniors involved. We need to have that in order to keep the sport alive and keep it moving forward. And I think with people like you and what you and Daniel are doing on the Front Range, John O'Brien and others around the country, and if we can continue to have these state championships as our primary focus before world championships or anything else. Although if you do look at the ITSF worlds, the multi-table worlds, the junior fields are pretty big because you're bringing in the best of the best from all the different countries, which is encouraging. But if we can continue to kind of create that sort of template of let's play locally, let's qualify for regional, let's qualify for state, and let's qualify for national, I think, and we continue to kind of keep putting carrots in front of these kids and allowing them to play a sport. As you said, maybe they can't play football, baseball, basketball, or whatever. They can play foosball. Anyone can play foosball. And I think that's kind of what you're focusing on. I think, again, I think you guys are doing a great job, and let's keep pushing in that direction.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah.
I suppose there should have been a question in there somewhere, but you know.
Well, I could keep going as always. But the other thing that I wanted to make sure that we were talking about, since you did bring up Michigan, we will be at Michigan. Michigan is going to be one of the banners that we're making.
Cool.
So Foosball Clubs USA will be doing an end of the year auction. I'm sure some of you guys I've tried to kind of blab it out to everybody, but we will be starting that auction. The bidding will start on items starting November 1st. So we are actually taking memorabilia items from players, things that they maybe have sitting around, maybe old trophies from Masters that they'd like to autograph and send through. So I want to make sure that people know about that. I don't know if maybe you guys have anything else with auction, maybe?
No, it's we've been talking about this. In fact, Adam, who was taking some time out this evening, has actually decided to join us here on FoosTalk Live. Adam, welcome to FoosTalk Live, and I know that you wanted to kind of make some suggestions as to what we might be able to do here to help out with this idea of an auction.
First off, howdy y'all. Thanks for
Hello,
having
Adam.
me. And also Sandy and Daniel, it was really great talking to you at Worlds. I'm really glad to be talking to you again. I really love what you guys are doing. I have two separate questions for you. One has to do with the auction, and the other one is kind of, I think, goes back to what Jim was talking about or was saying. But let me just go, since we're talking about the auction part right now. So I told you at Worlds, I was looking through a bunch of the old memorabilia that I had.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here, I'm looking at, I've got this tournament soccer pullover, an Etonics one. It's brown, I've got about at least half a dozen good condition, never been used tournament soccer leather gloves.
Cool.
With the tournament soccer on strap. All this stuff.
Adam, I want all of that.
Yeah.
I want all of it.
I've got a belt buckle that says tournament soccer. It's metal. It's made out of Provo, Utah. I'm donating all this stuff to your auction.
Oh my gosh, Adam, thank you
and
so
I told you about that one other item that I don't want to bring up live now because I need to make sure that my parents still have it. But if it's like a thing, then I think it would be a really good addition. But I was wondering if you could tell the people listening at home, A, what you might be looking for, and B, what what you might already have outside of the stuff I just said, that the people could be looking at, and when the auction is, because I recall it's in November.
Yes. We're gonna start the bidding November 1st. And then I'm gonna leave 3 weeks for the online bidding. So it's gonna be open to anyone around the world. Items will be I'll put as many pictures as I can and as much information. So number one, what we're looking for is going to be anything. Well, like you have a belt buckle, right? Like leather gloves. These are things that you don't find just anywhere. These are unique items that mean something to a collector or just a foosball player that wants to have something pretty cool for in their man cave, right? Or let me see here. So I'll tell you what we have so far, and then we can go from there. Like I have Robbie Mares donated a full set of player cards.
Wow.
They are all hand autographed by the players. Nice. So I have the full set that we will be auctioning off. Robbie Mares gave us that as one of the donations. We were flabbergasted. I mean, it's beautiful. We also have a autograph trophy from Tony Spreedman, Nationals first place open singles. He autographed that and donated that to us.
Cool.
We also have, I don't know if any of you guys know, Candy and Scott make their big foosball guys and their lamps and the yellow and black lamps.
Yeah. Scott's a wizard with that 3D printer. He really is.
Yeah. So they actually had all of the Open World Champions from 2021 sign a big yellow man. And so that is autographed by all of the Open winners, Avetta, Sullivan, Ryan, Hannah, and Blake. Yep. And so their signatures are on that. So we will be auctioning that one off. We also had the idea to make and print these unique banners for each of the tournaments that I've been really pushing people to sign. So those will be up for auction. Currently, we have 2021 Nationals. We have a World's warm up that they did from Tampa Bay Foosball and Pitts, which is a organization down in Florida. They've all signed a banner from there. And then we also will be having the Michigan banner, which, and we'll have a booth there too. So we'll have anybody that shows up to Michigan. I think that would be great, especially since it's going to be the first one for Mike to get that going. I think that'd be a wonderful addition. And then also the Colorado State banner. So those are the two that we need to add on to it. And the other items are the ones that I have collected so far from players. But other than that, like you giving the belt buckle, the leather gloves, any kind of like newspaper clippings, I've seen all kinds of stuff on Facebook of people showing all of their memorabilia and different pictures and anything. Like even if you're a good player yourself, if you're a pro, if you're an old pro, if you're a player that is known and you want to sign, a tornado sticker or just anything, that would be of value, right? Somebody's going to want that. These guys that you're talking about in the top 5, people are going to want stuff from them. So, and all of these proceeds are going to go straight into Foosball Clubs USA in order to fund these tables. So expand.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, just one more follow-up question. Then I don't mean to interrupt the flow, but how does, if somebody wants to donate, where do they go?
www.foosballclubsusa.com. There is a donation button at the bottom of the page. You can either set it up for recurring monthly, or you can just do a one-time. And you can just, it's real easy. Just click on it and submit your donation, and you're good to go.
So that comes down to donations monetarily, but what about items that people might want to give to you to auction off?
So what we're going to do with that is any money that comes in from those auctions, it'll go through, it's a organization that I found online that does nonprofit auctions. So it'll come through their site, and then it'll just deposit right into the Foosball Clubs USA account.
Cool.
Whoever wins it, it'll go straight into there.
I'm autographing a microphone as we speak.
Oh my goodness.
Love it.
That's not a metaphor.
We'd have to look at, Jim, we'd have to look at our subscriptions and see what the age. It's not our subscriptions are not necessarily, may not be age appropriate, but it'd be great if Inside Foos could give a subscription to. I just don't know, right, Jim? We got to look at that.
Right.
I'm really the reason why Inside Foos subscriptions are not age appropriate.
Well, I
so
know
maybe
that,
firing me makes them age appropriate.
You could just sell off non-Mark episodes.
Yeah, that's like what they play on the radio these days. The music these days is pretty heavily censored. Maybe we could do something like that.
And did we ever come to a conclusion about what we were talking about, Jim and Tom, or is this now not the time?
No, actually, no. I was just going to say, I wanted to bring up the point that we here at FoosTalk Live would be happy to offer up a position as a, let's say, guest host on FoosTalk Live. Say for half an hour or 40 minutes of the show as a thing to auction off.
Yeah, that's got to be worth $4 or $5. Yeah, for sure.
With or without Mark?
Do we have to pay? Do we have to pay them?
We pay Mark's. Yeah, if Mark is there, we pay them. But it works out in the end. Don't worry. It's like the Boston Pops.
Sandy,
the guest
we've asked this question.
Pull Tony Bacon in as a guest, and it'll be
nice.
Wow. You get the host with Tony Bacon. I thought about bringing him back. It's our highest rated show. Why wouldn't we bring him back, right? Sandy, we've asked this question of John O'Brien, of course. Obviously, getting the kids involved is important. But what can the existing player base, the existing players out there listening tonight or on download, how can they get involved? What can they do in their local area? What can they do to be a part of really developing young players through the schools? If you're talking to someone out there sitting at home listening right now who is a foosball player, comes to tournaments, a tournament player, and is interested in maybe in continuing to perpetuate, the growth of the sport, what would you tell them that they could do? What would be the shortcut for them to be involved?
Well, I mean, pretty much it's just networking and exposure. So if you were able to go to a school, explain what we do, and all you really have to do is just get them in contact with John O'Brien. Or if it's easier to contact me, you can contact me or Mark Drolet. I don't know if you guys know him. But so any of us can just pass it on over and we can help to get it started in your area. Now, eventually we are working, I've been told that it's right now I'm doing a pilot program at the new high school over here, where we are going to eventually have foosball player trainers train non-foosball player teachers to coach their kids. And so right now I'm doing it right now. I'm kind of like, flying through it, winging it, and trying to make sure that I figure out what not to do and what to do. And hopefully by the end of the school year, we'll have a nice set program to say, hey, look, we're going to be able to train, have official school trainers. That's also an opportunity. It's not in the works just yet, but it's definitely in line for one of the next major goals for us. I think that's going to be that pop out of the shell moment. So, keep in mind that if you want to be a trainer in your area, that's something, any kind of participation with what we do is going to help us. Any kind of talking about what we do is going to help us. And just contacting us, that's that first step that we can talk to the school and go from there. You don't really have to do much.
So do you, with Foosball Clubs USA, do you approach administrative, shall we say, administrative heads at a local school district that you're having trouble getting through to? I mean, these days, I think there's our school districts nearby here, they're on a very tight budget and they're worried about distractions. So how do you get around that? How do you appeal to administrations?
Well, now they actually have been getting a lot of grants lately in order to get through that. But any other kind of administration that is hesitant, we just tell them that, we can provide the tables if you can't afford them. We can help you in any way. That's what the donations go to for Foosball Clubs USA. And we would just offer to help them in whatever way. The administrators usually are very receptive to after school programs or any kind of like participation that the kids can be in that they don't have to pay for, and we can offer that. We have the ability to offer that with the help of the donations that we're getting. And hopefully what we get from this auction too is going to give it a big push. And also Mary Moore, Mary Moore has been a huge part of what we've been doing. And she is committed to the next 10 years of sponsoring Foosball Clubs USA and donating a portion of each of her tournaments to us.
Nice.
So,
I just want to. Sorry, go ahead. Finish.
Yeah, so it's mostly just the administrator, the club coordinator. Once you get to the club coordinator, they're all very receptive of it. So if you're looking to talk to somebody at the school, whatever club coordinator there is, you go through them, and usually the administrators, like here, they run a background check to make sure you're okay to be there and run a club. And other than that, there's really nothing else to it. They've all been pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah, and I want to really speak to what Sandy's saying. I work at a middle school. I've had for years, and they are always looking for outlets for their students. And you said this. You all said this earlier in the beginning of this episode, but not everybody's going to be playing football, soccer, whatever, and they don't know that the option exists. And for those of you out there that are looking to help, you don't need to be like some super 100%. You're there every single day, but as long as your interface for Foos Clubs, because I've seen what Foos Clubs has been doing and how they interface with the schools. Once there's somebody locally that's willing to do it, like Samuel Ketchum up in, I hope I'm saying his last name correctly, up in the Pacific Northwest. He's been contacting lots of schools up there. And I can tell you they are going to be very receptive and very happy to find options. And you're right. There's a lot of grants out there that just aren't being used because they don't fit certain, they earmark these things and they just need to get used. So please, if you're out there and you're listening and you're interested, and I personally, I helped Samuel do the letter that he wrote. He had the letter and I went over it with him, and that's what the thing that he sent out. I would be happy to help anybody that wants to contact or communicate with anybody in their local area. 100%.
Cool.
And on our website, we do have tools for that also. There are handouts and different, if you just look through our website, it's got a lot of great tools and ideas for how to reach out to your local schools.
Love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so Sandy, folks can reach you on Facebook, or if you have an email address that people maybe can approach you and contact you for more information or for help in instigating this process. And apparently Adam as well. Adam, you can reach Adam.
Please, always.
Yeah, on Facebook. To kind of continue to push forward what is something it's so very important as far as the future of the sport is concerned, and that's youth foosball in the schools and what Foosball Clubs USA, John O'Brien, Sandy Lueras and company are doing. Really guys, appreciate you.
If you have any complaints about inside food, you could reach Adam. Anything like you don't like the delivery, the sound, but let me make two comments before we say goodbye to you guys. I want to make two comments before we say. Sorry, go ahead. Listening.
Well, before I'm cutting you off because I'm just going to do it. So Foosball Clubs USA at gmail.com is the way to get a hold of us. So Foosball Clubs USA at gmail.com or Sandy Lueras at gmail.com. Okay, that's it. You guys can do what you do.
All right. I want to say two things before we go. I just saw a meme that reminds me of you guys. I think it's a powerful meme. And what it says is whenever you see a movie about time travel, it's always about someone going back in time to do some little thing to change the world. But no one ever thinks about today doing something really small to change the future. No one ever inverts that model. And it's very important because I think what you're doing right now is exactly that. You're doing these little things are actually big things that are going to be important to some kids. I think it's very powerful. I think it's beautiful. And I want to be totally supportive of what you're doing. Last thing I'll say is, Daniel, if I see any video of you playing against kids, I fully expect you to see you recoiling the rod and pointing at the goal.
Yes,
absolutely.
It's character building, and it's going to show them what they need to do to be men and women in the world.
Turn it into an NFT.
Just when you've given up on Mark Torres, he comes through with two amazing points. Yeah, good job, Mark.
Thank you. I'll be here all night.
Bat flip for Mark Torres. Drop the mic, Mark. Just drop it. Boom. Sandy, just from me, I appreciate so much what you and Daniel are doing on the Front Range and nationally, and just keep up the good work, keep up the good fight. All of us, of course, are so, I have kids, Mark has kids, Adam has a child as well. And it's something that is on our minds and something that is certainly the focus of so many people out there of how we can continue to do the right thing. And that is to get the kids involved, teach them to play the right way and develop better human beings, right? Moving forward through foosball of all things. Yeah. And I think we all believe that can happen and is happening and will happen. So thank you so much from me.
Oh, well, thank you so much from all you guys.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, Sandy and Daniel, we always have to ask the question because you have a foosball table in the house. Now, when you play each other in singles, what's usually the prize? If Sandy, if you beat Daniel, what do you get in return?
Careful. Be careful.
Yeah. Well, so sometimes it's, I don't know, like an extra.
Amy and I play for the dishes. I'll give you. We play for who does the dishes. There you go.
Like it's something like that. Like it's like a chore, or I get to pick like the movie Yeah, the movie or just something little like that. But if he really wants to beat me, like he lets me win because if he really wants to beat me, like he just smashes on me and makes me look stupid.
Yeah, if he ain't recoiling, he ain't trying.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, exactly. And we've actually had those times where I'm like, you let me win. Why are you letting me win? And now I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's okay.
Wow, Tom, that was the most controversial question.
Yes, I know. Well,
my
Tom,
goodness,
you are growing as a foosball questioner.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
Well, it is a family affair after all, and keeping it real for sure. But Daniel and Sandy, you guys are great. I think this is something we have to find out how things are going with the auction in the near future. And yes, I'm seriously, I think we could talk about something that FoosTalk Live and perhaps Inside Foos could do together to give some kind of an item to be given away for the auction.
I am autographing one of my vocal cords right now, and I'm going to donate.
Oh my goodness!
Ooh,
you should just autograph the video of that.
Yeah, guys. Yeah. And so hopefully, whenever I have like links and other things, it's kind of hard to do over voice, but I can post on Facebook just the links if anybody wants to donate their stuff, or once the bidding starts, you'll also need to log into this site. It's called betterworld.com in order to view the auction items.
Cool.
So I don't know if maybe, maybe we can go over that before November 1st and just make sure that everybody knows where to go for the auction.
Okay.
Sandy, why don't we get an email going and we'll create something for you to spruce it up and promote it heavily on Inside Foos and Inside Foos TV page. It'll reach, over 1,000 people easily. So we'll get some assets from you and put something really nice out there to drive visibility.
Yeah, that would be absolutely great.
Very cool. Right. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Right. Thank you, Sandy and Daniel. Come on back to Durango, man. We're ready for you.
No, they're not. No, they're not. But come back.
Keep on recoiling. Keep on. Daniel's a super talent, man. I'm telling you. But keep up the great work, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for having us.
So Sandy and Daniel Lueras have joined us this evening for FoosTalk Live. Very, very fortunate, guys. I got to say, what a great conversation.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Sandy is so expressive, and really, it's you can just sense the energy and the motivation and how much she is into this, how important it is to her, and it really is contagious, no question about it.
Well, it's enthusiasm is what we need, of course, and the rest of it is hard work, no doubt.
Yep. And once a few people just show the example, like John O'Brien's been showing the example now for quite a few years, and other people are starting to get on board and do that. I think it's infectious in the good way, and I'm really excited to see where they go with it.
Sure. Oh, no question. No question.
And of course, we at Inside Foos are going to do all we can to help continue to push this such an important thing forward. No question.
No question. Well, guys, this has been a great night. It's great to get back together, everybody actually at the same time. And Adam, thanks for jumping in. I hope that everything's good with you, or all things good on the home front.
Yeah, they're going to work out. Like I said, kiddo got a little sick on our little mini vacation, so we had to come home. But so far, seems okay.
All right.
So he's got a cold, I think.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Just not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, understood. So parting shots, Jim. What have you got for us?
Yeah, not much. We got these three the big-time state championships coming up, Louisiana and Michigan, and then Colorado coming up here in the next 6 weeks or so. And so sport continuing to push forward. Some things happening in Europe as well, including the European Club Championships coming up in November. But, as we move towards 2022, the World Cup coming up, things are really starting to ramp up both in this country and internationally as well. So foosball is not dying, folks. Foosball is moving forward. It is growing.
Love it. And Mark
left. Oh, no, he's still here.
I just want to amplify that. It is growing. And, we talk about the second golden age of the 90s, and I believe the United States tornado is moving, but don't make no mistake, Germany may be in a golden age right now. Yeah. Germany has 3,000 tournaments a year. They have hundreds and hundreds of new players. They're playing. You heard about the Kicks Bar. We've talked about this. So we look at foosball globally, and that's the other big thing I'll say. with globalization, because in the 90s we're very siloed, and 3 people come from Europe, maybe 5 people come from Europe, very few people come from Europe. With globalization and social media and YouTube, we are connected. Foosball is connected across the world, and it's growing because of that too. So it's an exciting time for foosball, and it's going to keep accelerating.
Yes, no doubt. And Adam.
Yeah, I just got to say, I got to go back to this memorabilia thing, because my desk now is covered with memorabilia that I was pulling out while we were all talking. But I've got this really cool tournament soccer 1977 $250,000 World Championship Foos Festival belt buckle that I found that I'm going to donate. And speaking of Michigan State, I found this nice red T-shirt that has a tournament soccer logo on the front, and it says on the back, Sinbad's 2701 Washatika Avenue, Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Ypsilanti.
So that might be meaningful to somebody. I have no idea. But
somebody from Ypsilanti.
I don't know. But, as far as that's just all this stuff. And I'm really happy to see something that just sits around and does nothing in my house and goes towards the amazing stuff they're doing at foosball clubs. I just excited.
Yeah, I have found those belt buckles also do a pretty good job of holding up your pants. I've noticed that. But just got a great text from Mr. John O'Brien himself. Wonderful program. Thanks for promoting youth foosball, and great to hear from John, who is just he's a saint. John is a saint in doing amazing work with Foosball Clubs USA.
We are so lucky that there are
co-signed
like John. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's going to be the savior of the sport, and things are looking up already. So we're looking forward to what's ahead of us. Speaking of which, at least for my parting shot, I have to say kudos to Clay Toomey. Clay Toomey, who's been doing a brand new show here on Foosball Radio, FoosTalk Live, is proud to present Shooting the Shot with Clay Toomey on Tuesdays. Now, if you haven't listened to the show yet, or if you haven't downloaded it, there are 2 episodes up there right now at foosballradio.com. The third one is coming up this Tuesday. It'll be available at 5 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time.
And who's he got on this week?
Well, this week features somebody we've talked to once or twice, with his wife included. That would be Tommy Atkinson. So it's
awesome.
It's going to be. I'm sorry, not Tommy Atkinson this week, but that was last week. This week is Blake Robertson, who
nice
world champion.
Gets very they get very esoteric, I have to say. And Blake, until you listen to this, you assume he's just he's a go get him, he's a fun loving kind of guy, but there's some deep thoughts going on there. So
Clay's so good at bringing that out. I love to shoot the shot with Clay. I love to shoot the shot. I'm just going to keep saying it in case I say it wrong. But it's great. Shooting the shot with Clay Toomey.
Yep. So we'll part with the promo for that, just to let you know who's going to be on it, what's going to be happening. But we'll listen to that on the way out this evening, guys. But what do you say we do this again next week?
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Awesome.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Be safe, be healthy, and keep listening to FoosTalk Live.
Inside Foos and FoosTalk Live proudly present Shooting the Shot with Clay Toomey. Tuesdays.
My name is Blake Robertson. Coming out playing at Tornado Worlds this year. 2021. We didn't have a Tornado Worlds last year. So pretty excited to be here in Lexington, Kentucky.
So to a new fan of foosball who only started playing in the last 3 or 4 years, they hear you say elite category and they go, wait, what is that? Is that like a Supermaster? And of course I know what it is, but I'm saying for the fan who might not know, what the hell are you talking about?
So that's rankings. So you have, the bottom, you have a beginner, you have a rookie, you have an amateur, and then you go into the semi-pro division.
Experts.
The experts, that's correct. And then the pro division, and then after pro, it used to be an elite division, which I thought was hilarious because I'd rather be an elite than a master. So I was a lot of times I'm like, dude, you're a master, you suck, I'm an elite.
Yeah.
So the elite
was between pro and master.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically the best players who weren't master.
Shooting the Shot with Clay Toomey this Tuesday with Blake Robertson. Find it on Podbean or foosballradio.com. FoosTalk Live is a product of Inside Foos, all rights reserved. Brought to you in part by InsideFoos.com, Protectoflex, Rodlock, 518 Prince, Foosballers the Movie, the USTSO, and Foosball Clubs USA. Tune in again next week for another episode of FoosTalk Live. In the meantime,
we'll see you foosing.